Now, if you didn't get a chance to watch the interview that Bret Baier of Fox News did with Kamala Harris, let's talk a little bit about it before I play some excerpts for you. First of all, why do you suppose Kamala Harris agreed to do the interview? The answer is that the polls are showing momentum in favor of Donald Trump. Depending upon the polls you look at, many of them, if not most of them, show Donald Trump ahead in virtually all the swing states. That is a huge switch from just 2 weeks ago. So the movement is in favor of Trump. The British betting parlors are now, more of them are now saying that Donald Trump is going to win versus Kamala Harris, and they are scared bleepless. You saw the softball interviews that she did. She went on The View. She went on a podcast called Call Me Daddy, and she was asked suck-up questions. So why in the world would she submit to an interview with Fox News? Again, the answer is she's scared. And she wants people to know that she's not afraid to, quote, go into the belly of the beast, close quote, which is how one of the hosts on MSNBC described her interview with Bret Baier. Now, why Bret Baier? Obviously, it was a interviewer that the Kamala Harris team agreed to. Why didn't she choose, I don't know, Sean Hannity? Because Sean Hannity is a firebrand. They didn't want that. By the way, that's not a negative. I've been referred to as a libertarian firebrand. I'll accept that. Why not Harris Faulkner, the talented black female anchor? Why not her? Well, because the whole point was to get in the face of some conservative on Fox News. Nothing warms the coggles of a victocrat, quote, person of color, close quote, than for a black female to get in the face of a white dude who's a conservative. And Bret Baier is courtly. He's measured. He's reasonable. He's not a flamethrower. I think people on both sides respect him. But Kamala Harris knew if she got aggressive, he would be respectful and would not go back in kind, which is pretty much what happened. He tried to ask a question. She wouldn't answer. He interjected to get her to stay focused. And at that point, she just teed off on Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. That's exactly what they wanted, and that's exactly what they got. Now, I watched the interview. He talked about the 79%, according to a new poll, 79%, much higher than even I thought, of Americans who believe we're on the wrong track. He talked about that. And of course, he talked about immigration. That was the very first thing that he talked about. And Harris pretty much didn't answer anything, or gave answers that were just, in my opinion, pretty pathetic. But that's not why they went there. They went there so they could have her stand up to this beast known as Fox News, go into the belly of the beast, and hold her ground. And that's what the perception is on the part of those who want Kamala Harris to win. When it was over, I switched over to CNN. She stood her ground. She didn't take any guff from Bret Baier. Bret Baier was rude. He tried to bully her, but no. Cut over to MSNBC. She was amazing. She was on top of things. They couldn't bamboozle her. They couldn't bulldoze her. I'll tell you what. Don't tell me Kamala Harris won't stand up any. That was exactly what they wanted. Did she answer the question about how it is that 79% of people feel we're on the wrong track and you want to turn the page when you're the one who wrote the page? Did she answer that question very well? You be the judge when we play it. He started off the interview with immigration, and she repeated the same old tired lines that one of the first things we did, we came in, within hours, we submitted a bill that would have solved the problem. Really? The bill was a massive amnesty bill. Would have legalized virtually every illegal alien here, plus some of the ones that have been deported, plus welcome a whole bunch of new ones. It was dead on arrival. But, of course, had the dastardly Republicans decided to sign that bill, we wouldn't have this problem. Really? And then recently, we submitted another bill. Some of the most conservative members of the Senate signed on to that bill. And what happened? Donald Trump would rather have an issue to run on than solve the problem. He was putting his own prospects for becoming president before the prospects of the country. Harump, harump, harump. And Bret Baier very steadily tried to say that, well, you reversed a whole bunch of the policies that were put into place by Donald Trump. Some 90 different executive orders, you reversed them. Don't you have any responsibility for that? Well, Donald Trump, we had within hours, the first thing we did was submit a bill that would have solved the problem. And then we submitted another one. It would have solved the problem. Really? So she did that. And Bret Baier pointed out that you've given 2 interviews recently where you were asked whether you would do anything differently. And you were asked what the difference between you and Joe Biden. And you essentially said there aren't any differences. And when asked whether there was anything you would have done differently in the last 3.5 years, you said nothing I could think of. She said, let me be clear. Let me be clear. This will not be a continuation of the Biden presidency. Yeah, but what would you do differently? Would you have done anything differently about, I don't know, Afghanistan? That didn't come up. Would you have done anything differently about shutting down the Keystone Pipeline? That didn't come up. Would you have done any differently about stopping the prospect of drilling in Anwar? It didn't come up. Would you have done anything about, at least for a while, stopping the approval of new drilling permits on federal property? That didn't come up. Because she was there to dump on Donald Trump, to call Donald Trump a danger to our republic, which is what she did, and to say a whole bunch of things out of context that Donald Trump said. This was interesting. It was a highlight for them. Bret Baier played a response to a question given by Donald Trump earlier in the day when Trump appeared at a town hall with a bunch of women in an event hosted by Harris Faulkner. And someone asked him about his alleged assertion that he was going to go after his enemies, go after his detractors. And Trump responded, what I mean is it's a 2-tier judicial system. There's a lot of bad people like Adam Schiff, and we need to make sure that people like that recognize that they're hurting the country, something to that effect. So Bret Baier played that. And Kamala Harris said, wait, that's not the clip. That's not the clip. That's not what Donald Trump said. You didn't play what Donald Trump said. He wasn't trying to play what Donald Trump said. He was playing an answer to a question about Donald Trump allegedly using the government, if he becomes president, to go after his enemies. And so if you look at the left-wing media responding to the interview, Fox News tried to pull a fast one. They tried to play something that Donald Trump never said, and therefore Kamala Harris caught him and showed them that they were trying to show that Donald Trump never said these things, when in fact he said this. So I knew it was going to happen, that there was going to be a flash poll asking whether or not Kamala Harris did well. And by 6 points over those who thought she didn't do well, she did well. That's exactly what they went in for. They weren't going in there to talk about what their policies would be. Her proposition to give 1 million black men money, forgivable loans up to $20,000 apiece never came up. Her answer about she would study reparations never came up. Her assertion to Al Sharpton in 2020 that she would sign a bill for reparations never came up. Her single-payer plan to end private insurance never came up. Never came up that she had a more left-wing record than Bernie Sanders in 2019, a record that was removed from GovTrack never came up. And she didn't want them to. And by the way, ended the interview.